bum, 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 bum.
You're on with me. Okay, so I hear you, Tracy. So those of you who are joining us, this is Victoria with Dream Dogs and our podcast and our Facebook Live. That's called How to Train Your Service Dog. We make it really easy. But we have a special guest with us today. So I kind of talk a little bit in the beginning because as people get like the dings that we're going live, then that's awesome. And people join in and see us. And as they see our beautiful faces on Facebook, they'll be like, what are those two talking about today? So I usually bub up for a little bit. So Tracy and I met many years ago at an IACP conference.
Mhm.
And we love each other. We're best friends. And we have a secret handshake and everything. But Tracy is super. She has been in dog training for a number of years, and she does a lot with puppies, and she does a lot with temperament tests. She works with a couple amazing, well, a handful, a number could be any number. So I like using a number. A number of amazing breeders. And as we were at conference just a couple weeks ago together, talking quite a bit, quite often, we started talking about temperament tests. And that one of the things that I hear a lot from people who are looking for service dogs, we just talked about this during the Hope Service Dog Board meeting the other day. What do you look for in a puppy? Because we get people who offer us puppies, but they're like the last ones left. And not like always the greatest, so like, let's make him be a service dog. And no, that's not how it works. So we were talking about the Bohart puppy test and like which number of it that you would want and why. So Tracy has an amazing temperament test that she uses with her amazing breeders and amazing puppies. And I hornswoggled her to get her on to join us today to talk about it and what to look for from an expert. So here we go. To answer all of our questions today is Tracy, who lives in Texas. But you're okay. You're not getting flooded?
No water here.
Yay. She's not getting any water, so that's good. But she doesn't have any water, guys. She needs some water. No, I'm kidding. She's good on water. That's good, right? She has to drink bottled water, guys.
I know. Bad.
I just bought a new case of it at Sam's, and Rich is like, we have 2.5 cases in the cupboard. Why did we get another one? And I'm like, clients, it's good to have.
You do, yeah.
So, Tracy, how long have you been training?
Just about 30 years.
30 years. That's longer than a lot of people have been alive.
Thank you.
Which is good. That means you have experience. Do you know how many people get on and they're like, I've been training dogs for 3 months. I know everything because I watched a TV show. Yep. And it can be very aggravating. Yep. So in your time of doing this, you like to work with puppies.
Yes.
And you like to do the temperament test.
Yeah, absolutely. It's how I got started really in the professional aspect. I started professionally my career with a guide dog organization, and part of my task was to select puppies to be raised as guide dogs. So that was really my thrust forward into how to do a temperament test and why.
Okay. So you started with guide dogs. That's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
I know I haven't used to work with guide dogs, who's Django's breeder, but I don't have too much experience with guide dogs. There's a place in Florida, the Southeastern Guide Dog Association. So like that's who I don't even have to learn.
No.
You know?
I don't do it anymore either. No, that's a very specialized form of training in my opinion. And that's not where I'm at now. So,
okay.
Yeah.
So where are you at now?
So right now I primarily train people with pet dogs, help people with service dogs, therapy dogs, and help people problem solve if they're having a specific working dog that they're having an issue with or a pet dog that they're having an issue with. So really everything from potty training puppies on up to, dog biting you in your arm. So, and everything in between.
Yeah, it sounds like us. I don't like as much the dogs biting me in the arm. I much prefer the service dog angle where they're good and there's like less of the risk. But you need a challenge every now and then. If it was always the same, I don't think it would be near as fun. So
and I'm just I'm what I like to call a tiny business. It's just me, and that's what I prefer. So it's everything I can handle and keeps me out of trouble otherwise.
Right? It keeps you out of trouble, keeps you doing well and helping dogs and making awesome families. So they want to keep their dogs and have, as I like to call, like, there's a reason I call my company Dream Dogs, is because I want you to have
Yeah,
the dog you've always dreamed of.
yeah,
And you're not dream dogs, you are yes pups. So you want to be able to say yes to your pup.
yeah, absolutely. I like that. It's been my domain for almost as long as I've been in business. So, yeah, I'm a firm believer in trying to stay positive with my dogs and trying to keep them motivated and really educate them so that they have a desire to be my friend and to be my buddy and for me to be there so that we don't have a lot of conflict. But when we do have conflict, I can just give the mom face, and then
And they listen and they're like, okay, don't do the mom face anymore.
they're like, no, don't like it when mom frowns. Uh,
My grandma, my mom was always said, like yelling, and I've heard this from other people too, like yelling is one thing. It was whenever they got quiet that you're like, oh
oh, yeah,
crap.
yeah, yeah. I have one dog that I use for demonstration purposes, and I just scowl at him, and he just, oh no. And he just lays on the floor, and people go, "Oh my gosh!" I've
Right?
never laid a hand on him except to pet him and love him and groom him. But he gets that we're a team, and he does not like to make me unhappy.
Yeah.
Um, so
So I got a good story on that one. Went to my very first seminar that I went to was an APDT seminar in Atlanta. It was really close, so we went there. The woman who I was working for at the time had me and one of my good friends was the agility instructor, so she sent both of us. And while we were there, one of the speakers said one thing. There were two things I took away from that whole one that was good. One of them is if you totally ignore your dog, he'll feel like, oh, what did I do wrong? And he'll make up. So I said, okay. And the other one was, this is my favorite, especially as many service dogs as we've worked with now, is dogs understand whenever their owner has a disability and they're good. And so, like, if you have a problem walking, like, the dog will stay by your side and he won't, like, pull ahead. And I'm like, okay. So I'm like, let's try both of these. So with my German Shepherd, when I got home, I'm like, okay, I'm going to totally ignore her. It was just something like, I'm going to wait like for her to do something bad, but her thing was going to be, I'm going to totally ignore her. What was a German Shepherd? She had very high pack drive. Like, I was her sun and moon. Like, it was detrimental to her. I did the same thing to Luke. Luke was in like young elementary school at the time. So it was a little bit funny, but like, yes, okay. I saw a huge thing there that like, oh my God, this is going to work great for the right dog, right? You get a dog like a Siberian Husky who's like, I don't care what you're doing anyway, it's not going to do any good.
right.
And then the other one, I'm like, okay, so, you get a dog who pulls on the leash and you pretend like, oh, I can't walk good. Yeah, the dog's like, woohoo, sucker, I'm out of here. So I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah. I mean, really, I love all breeds, but a Shih Tzu would just be like, yeah, I'm going that way.
Right?
And you're coming with me or you're not, but I'm going that way.
Yeah.
So, yeah. I'm not
This is like my favorite. I was so excited. I'm like, this is going to be great. I just found someone told me the secret to dog training. And I'm like, that wasn't the secret to dog training.
No,
You wonder like how you hear like, will turn your back on a dog who jumps on you. And you're like, why do people say that? I figured out how they say that and why. It's because like they don't actually test it. They just say this is what they say it should be.
yes, they read it in a book.
Yeah. Yeah. Look, I read it. I highlighted it even, and I scribbled notes in the margin saying, try this.
Yeah, right. I mean, I'm sure, look, there are some dogs that things will work for and others that it won't. And that is the benefit and the blessing of having professional trainers, because we save people time and therefore, money. We can zero in and say, hey, with this dog, you probably need to use this kind of approach to get there the fastest, easiest, most humane way.
Yeah. Well, that's the other thing too. I remember Caesar did an episode years ago, and it really struck me. And he was raising up these puppies. He was choosing puppies from different, sporting, like dog breed groups. And one of them, he went to, I think it was like a Schnauzer or something. And he goes and he picked his puppy that he chose, right? And the breeder's like, that's not the puppy I would choose. I would choose this puppy because he has like pizzazz and personality, and not that puppy. And he's like, well, I want this puppy because of energy. And so that's one of the things that I've told people from, because like I said, it really resonated with me. And I'm like, like my pick puppy for service dog work isn't going to be your pick puppy for competition dog. And that's why we got Django, is because he's perfect for me. But for a competition dog, they might be like, no. Now, Bart says he really, really likes Django and that he would make him a world champion. So, like, but, like you have to look at that. You have to look at it. And so these breeders who say like, oh, my dogs are service dogs. I'm like, but are they? Really? And even we're going to be breeding Gypsy, we're going to be breeding Candy, and Cindy at conference, she was like, I'd be interested in a Gypsy puppy, but I don't want to take one away from somebody who needs a service dog. And I'm like, well, not all of them are going to be service dogs. Like some of them are going to be a little too high energy for it, a little too low energy for it. They're not all, we're trying to hedge our bets by breeding her with another service dog. But like they're not all gonna be, because each litter runs the gambit of everything. So you get like a whole pack per litter.
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I think we're talking about, as it relates to temperament testing, there is normally variability within breeds and within litters. So, part of the production of breeding is we're breeding for health, we're breeding for temperament, we're breeding for structure and size, and the things that really help a dog live a long, healthy, prolonged life and benefit the gene pool. But within that, you can't breed for everything all the time. And so you are going to have some variability in temperament or, slight modifications in size or some health issues.
Yeah. You get that dog who's just like boing, 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 boing. And you're like, you're going to go into agility.
Where did that come from? I think in terms of, the things that most people are looking at in terms of the terminology of the temperament test, they know that it exists, but they don't necessarily know what function it serves, what they should pick, why they should pick it, why it matters who does the test or where the test is done and what litters or breeds the test is done on, because there's a lot of variability in there and certainly in the results of those.
Yeah. So that brings us to, what is a temperament test, Tracy?
Well, for me, a temperament test is an aptitude test. It really tells us exactly at that moment in time that we do the test where the puppy is with its aptitude. So, we call it a temperament test, but it's really really more of an aptitude. It's really indicating what things the puppy might have ability. There you go. Ability for. And so within that, it really is your starting place. It is not a guarantee that the puppy will end up at that place. It is a starting place. And the reason that that's beneficial is so that we know if we're picking a pet dog, we might want one that's 3s or maybe 4s. Or if we're looking at, maybe we want a therapy dog, maybe you want all 4s. Or if you want a working dog, maybe you really want more 1s and 2s. So knowing what it is that we're looking for when we begin that process is helpful.
Okay, Tracy, we just got response back that you're cutting out a lot. I didn't know if it was just my computer or not.
Okay, can you hear me now?
We'll see. Put it around like this and make you have a mustache.
Okay. That's, yeah. Well, I'm old, so I have a mustache anyway.
It's still cutting in and out.
Oop. Let me go slower.
Okay. So we'll see. You guys work with us here. It's all good. But I appreciate, thank you. Betty Rose told us that. She also said she'd be interested in a Gypsy puppy because she's gorgeous, and she is. Tracy got to spend a week with her, got some snuggles.
Mm-hmm.
And she also said her dog scored mostly 3s and 1 4 on hers when she was 7 weeks old, and she picked her based on that, and she's a golden. Nice.
Yeah.
So one of the things that I've heard from people multiple times, because again, I get a lot of service dog phone calls, is I got my puppy, like what Betty's saying here, I got my puppy because of what he scored, and he scored like he'd be good for service work, and he didn't make it as a service dog. So I don't think those tests are any good. And what I try to explain to them is that's a moment in time to kind of help you like choose one or the other, because you don't want to choose because he's pretty. Like that's like the worst reason to choose a dog. Like, because he was the pretty one, because he didn't bite my feet whenever I walked in, but you need something. And so this is to help you with that, but it's just that predict tendencies. I like that you said that. That it is just that moment in time, and it's no guarantee prediction of future behavior. Stop. Candy's outside and I have the door shut. She's trying to get in and he hears her trying to come through the doggy door, and he's letting me know.
Well, yeah, I think, can you hear me okay?
No, you're still cutting out.
Frustrating. Hold on.
Okay.
Now,
so Nicole says she wants a Django puppy. Django's fun. So we are going to keep him intact until he's at least full grown. And then if we do decide to neuter, I do have people who are interested in breeding with him, so we'll free some just in case if he doesn't stay with all his boy part.
Can you hear me okay now?
We'll try it and see. Could you just like unplug it and go off of your computer?
Yeah. Can you hear me okay now?
Oh my God, yeah.
There we go. Well, let's do that.
Okay.
Okay. So going back to the temperament and why sometimes the temperament test doesn't actually result in a working dog. Even in facilities that have been training service dogs for a very long time, the washout rate across the board is between 30 and 40%, and these would be dogs trained by professionals. So it's
yeah.
It's a lot. So look, not every dog that starts can finish. There's a lot of nuances to that. But if you pick a dog that was 3s and 4s and the dog was properly tested at the proper time by the proper person in the proper way, okay, maybe it really was a 3 and a 4 and it just didn't make it. But as a professional trainer, for me, I mean, I could take a dog that was a 5 or a 6 and make it be a 4. Or I could take a dog that was a 1 and maybe bring it on down to like a 2, 3. A pet dog trainer may not have the skill to be able to do that, but should be able to keep a 3-4 dog in about a 3-4 range. But depending on what tasks they have to do, they may just not be able to complete those tasks. But that may be less of a drive and more of a training issue. Or it can be a drive issue. So, for example, on one of the tests, it's a ball drive test. So you toss a ball and you see if the dog will go and retrieve it and bring it back. I have one breeder I work with, like they don't fetch. None of them. Like maybe in 20 puppies I'll have one that will go after it, but they're not bringing it back. But the majority, more than half, not the majority, but more than half of those puppies at age 1 will do a full retrieve.
Okay. So it doesn't guarantee that they're never going to retrieve.
Right, absolutely. It's not a guarantee. It's just a starting place. One of the other tests that we'll do is a pinch test. So you'll take between the puppy's paws and you actually pinch the skin between. And it's a test just to tell how much tolerance they have to physical discomfort. Also an awareness to touch. So when we deal with kids who have autism or spectrum kids, maybe we want a dog that has more of that resistance to touch, just doesn't really care. So maybe we would want a dog that has like a 7, 8, 9, 10 range where they can just tolerate a whole lot.
So you're like pinching him and you're like, come on already. And he's like, what? Well,
right. Right. So that dog is going to test a 1, 2 on that. I don't want a 3 on that. If I was looking for something specific, I would want a dog that was far more tolerant for that sensitivity.
Yeah. Oh yeah, definitely. But if you're training something where, you need that littlest bit of touch to get something, like, you're going to want the dog who's very, like, yes, okay, I got it right there.
Absolutely. Yeah. If I'm picking a therapy dog, I want a dog that says, ooh, touch me right here, touch me all the time, ooh, right? And So part of that is being able to break down that test as well and to say, you know, what do I really need in terms of service? Like, you know, the elevation one where we're lifting the puppy off the ground. Well, you know, if you're never going to have a dog off the ground, that might not matter. But if you have a smaller dog, a dog that needs to sit up on your lap for service, you definitely want a dog that can tolerate that, right?
Yeah. Oh, most definitely. Yeah.
So, you know, in terms of the basic stuff, I think for service dog work, we definitely want one that probably more like those 3-4s, but it can have parts that, like, if you want a ball drive because you want to use that as your reinforcer, or you need a dog whose task is to pick items up, you want a 1.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, well, because you could do it. I mean, I don't know if you do like the unforced force fetch or a force fetch or anything. It's something people want. And I know some trainers will do like a 6-week boot camp just to work on that. I know other ones who are like, you know, if the dog doesn't want to do it, I'm not going to make him do it. And I know other ones who are like, I will get him to do it. It might take time, but it will happen. And I'm like, I don't want to be that person.
Right.
I want them to enjoy it and have fun because it's all about that heart and soul.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, yeah, for sure. And in terms of temperament, you know, again, just because you have a dog that has a low ball drive doesn't mean they won't retrieve the ball. It just means it may take a little effort to kind of dial that in and up.
Right. That always reminds me of it. We watched Andy Griffith growing up, and you know, yeah, like one of the, you know, one of them. No, I'm sorry, it was the Dukes of Hazzard with the dog in the wagon that he carried around with him everywhere.
Yeah.
That, you know, like there's a dog for everybody. Like I'm sure he was a perfect dog for it, but yeah.
There is. I mean, when we get, it's rare for the breeders that I work with that will have dogs that really, puppies that truly cast at like all 6s or mostly 6s. But you know, we'll get some that are 5-6s, and look, those dogs are spectacular for people that don't want to put in a lot of effort and don't want to go a lot of places.
Yeah.
It's a perfect match. They just hang out. And so, you know, there's a home for every puppy. The other part of it too is, again, if you're picking for service work, you don't get guilted into it's the last one. Like you said, don't fall into that trap. That serves no one. Don't pick a dog that
one
isn't
of them. They wanted to give me one person wanted to give me an Anatolian Shepherd because he's just great for service dog work, and he's the last one left. And I said no. Another one, she had contacted me because of her male Rottweiler was super duper aggressive, like really bad off, and he wasn't even 2 yet. Oh, and he sired a litter of puppies with their female Rottweiler, and they wanted to donate one to me. I'm like, no, I don't want that one.
Yeah,
with the I said, no.
Yeah, we're good.
So one of the things you said is about the person doing it and like the time to do it. So this isn't something like you're going to prep for and like test them every week just to make sure that they score a passing score and they all get straight A's.
Yeah, no, it's not. In fact, it's really not. That's the opposite, right, of what we're looking to accomplish. And, you know, you might even ask the breeder some questions that can help indicate what's happening. So you might ask if they say, well, my puppies are temperament tested or Weevil hard test or whatever test they use. And you can say, well, who did the testing? Because if it was the breeder, not okay. And if they say, well, I have an outside person that does it, we'll say, wonderful. Well, where do they do the testing? Because if it's in the kennels where the dogs are, or if the dogs are living in the kitchen and the test is performed there, it's not going to be an accurate result. And the reason that it's not going to be is because the whole point of the test is to put the dog in or put the puppy into an experience that it hasn't had, in a place it hasn't been, with a person it doesn't know, and say, okay, this is difficult. How interested are you in doing these things? What is your aptitude for these particular skills? And so if the breeder has done any kind of training specific to the test, it kind of invalidates it. Now, it's just important to mention, though, that's not the same as breeders who have out the little jungle gyms or wobble boards. This is not really the same. We want to do those.
Neurological stimulation, all of that is good breeder stuff.
Yes, right, exactly.
Say, like we did the temperament test, and on the third time he scored perfect 3s across the board, is not what we want. Someone did one, and they sent me clips of it because they were looking at this breeder, and the breeder and her friend are in the room with the puppies, and they're doing it, and they're like, okay, that was the third time. I think we got it this time, and he scored what you wanted. And I'm like, that's not what it's for. I mean, owners can go and temperament test because it's right there. If they use the Volhard test, it's all right there. It tells you exactly what to look for. We recommend recording it so you have it, but people just don't. They're like, I'm going to follow my heart. Because your heart's not a dog trainer.
Okay.
Yeah.
That kind of stuff keeps me in business, so I'm good with that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, certainly not repeating the test is certainly something to be considered. We do it at 49 days because that is the point in time when the basic development is done. We're getting ready to go into a new social experience, and if we go too much longer, the idea is that you have some learned behavior. And so while the test is complete, it may not be quite as accurate because we're not sure if that's the normal aptitude or if that's learned behavior.
Okay, perfect. So these people who tell you that, like, I temperament tested him at 6 months old. I temperament tested him at 2 years old. It's not the same temperament test. You would need a special one because we have one for shelter dogs, and that's all fine and well and good, but that's only, again, it's going to give you a snapshot of this day, this time, this is how he was. And we all know, like, the dogs usually open up after a few weeks, and they're not the same dog as what they were in the shelter.
Sure, for sure, absolutely. So, in a context, I love the temperament test, and I use kind of a combination. It's a Volhard test, and back in the day, we used the Monks of New Skeet, which is, both tests are easy to access. But I use both, and depending on the breeder, I have one breeder that I do almost a combination of. These dogs just never ever are exactly as the form describes, and so we've altered it just a little bit to make it more true to the behavior that we see. And I feel like I can do that because I've temperament tested a lot of puppies and a lot of different breeds, and it's given me the ability to have some experience there and to say, okay, yeah, they just don't do that behavior. They just don't walk off. That's not what this breed does.
Yeah.
So altering it to say, okay, this is really a 3 temperament, but it's going to look like this behavior. And that sometimes helps potential buyers as well, so that they don't get the puppy home and go, wait, the test said it does this, but it doesn't. Well,
whenever I run it through the tested hub, it's totally different from what you
okay, yeah, whatever. In terms of, I also want to mention one other thing. So the other thing that's interesting about temperament testing is that, and this is just an interesting breeding thing, so there's a gestational age for dogs, right? So the normal gestation is 59 to 63 days, I think. But here's an interesting fact. So the estrus cycle can have a little window in it that allows for conception to take place. This is sometimes why we get runt puppies, right? Or the big puppy, because they were fertilized first or last. And there can be like possibly 7 days difference in their gestational age. So once they're born, everybody's got to play catch up, but sometimes those little ones might take a little longer to get to the game. And so testing those puppies, we want to go ahead and be very cognizant of, just that developmental age may just be coming along. It may be more of an emergent behavior and less of a concrete behavior.
Okay. That's really interesting, and that's really amazing info, because we need to know that too, that because every time these runts become like the biggest, fattest dogs that I've ever seen in my life, but because they were the rest of the litter, and so they make sure they get plenty of food, which is great. But you need to understand that part of it too.
Right. And, and the other part of it too is like sometimes I'll do a temperament test, and the rest of the litter will be, anywhere between a 3, 4. Sometimes there'll be a 5 swung in there, but the puppies that I deal a lot with are usually between a 3 and a 4. Every once in a while, I'll get one, and it will just test weird, inconsistent with the rest of the litter. And part of the benefit of having tested a lot of dogs, a lot of puppies, is to be able to say, okay, this puppy is testing like a 5, 6, but it's not. You can just watch the other behavior and determine, no, something's up. They're tired, they're hungry, they've been vaccinated recently, they're not feeling well. And so maybe they don't test all that well, or maybe they are the smallest in the litter and they just need a little more cooking time.
Yeah. So that's where, what Volhard's 49 days, where it might be 49 days, it might be a little more, it might be a little less, but it's around there.
Yeah.
So if you don't hit it at 49 days and you have to get there at 50 days, like it's not the end of the world. And
nothing irrevocable will happen. And again, if they're testing within a range of a couple of points, a good trainer can help you bump a dog usually from one place to another. So close enough is close enough.
Yeah. Oh, totally. Yeah. So we do have some questions. Betty asked if we're going to show Gypsy before we breed her. We are not showing Gypsy because I don't want to. I'm not a very competitive person like that. Most of the time what they do while they do conformation is to evaluate breeding stock. We got her as a show puppy. That's the only way we got full registration, was picking a show puppy. Technically we were supposed to try to show her until I found out that, did you know it takes around $15,000 to put a championship on a golden, and fees and handler fees, and I'm not doing that. She has more than $15,000 in service dog training in her.
Yeah.
So we did get all her health testing done for Goldens. It's hips, elbows, eyes, and heart. She has an amazing temperament. She has titles. Well, she just has her CGCs, all 4 of them, including the Star Puppy. She has, I think, 3 trick dog titles, and she's a service dog. And for me, I'm happy with that.
Yeah, I would be happy with that too. And I was thinking about this today. She's such a nice size. She really, truly is. She's just perfect.
She is, yeah. So conference, I was looking at pictures after we got back, because we were there for a week. And as the days went on, her face gets tighter and tighter in those pictures. I feel so bad for her. But when we had Era, we'd go to Disney for the weekend for 3 or 4 days. We'd go to Disney for 5 days, for a week. And he learned to live with that, but it's still so much on the dogs.
Yeah.
And luckily Luke played babysitter for her, and sometimes for Holstein, but she needed some time because they don't rest as well as what they do at home.
Right.
The service dogs. And she's not used to doing a lot of traveling, because we don't do it anymore. We're home a lot.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, she's pretty cool. Yeah. Here, Nicole has a question. How do you test people who come to you who already have a puppy anywhere between 8 weeks and 9 to 10 months old?
Yeah. Do you want to answer that, Victoria, or you want me to answer that?
I'll let you answer it.
Well, if they're 8 weeks, I might not necessarily run the whole test, but I might run little parts of it. For service dog work, the thing that I'm mostly looking for is, does the dog have a social attraction? Is it interested in me? Is it interested in its handler? If it is, then we can do a lot to build up confidence and to give training. There are some general things that we want it to have some stability. Stability is nice. In the temperament test that we do, the very last part of the test is where we take an umbrella and we pop it open and we drop it on the ground. This is done about 8 to 10 feet away from the puppy. And as it falls to the ground, what I'm looking for is a puppy that startles. right? Because I don't want a dumb one. And then a puppy that says, wait, I can recover. What is that? That looks interesting, curious. And they show some interest to the object, to the umbrella. I don't care if they go up to it. I just care that they are startled and that they can recover. And if they show interest, that's even better. So in terms of service work, whether it's 8 weeks or 7 weeks or 10 months old, it's got to have some recovery because service is hard work and you're going to be in public and your dog is at some point going to make a poor choice, and it is your job to help that dog recover. And if it already has a natural instinct or an aptitude towards recovery, that's going to be a much easier process.
Perfect. Oh yeah, we were at Universal today, and there was a fire-breathing dragon, and Candy was like, "What was that?" And then she was like, and I mean, Candy's like almost 3, but she didn't start service work until a few months ago when we brought her over from. So yeah, I look for what I call big red flags. I want to see. I don't want to see any shyness. I don't want to see any aggression to new people or dogs. I want to look for those. I love that sociability. You really want that. That's huge. If there's not that connection there, and especially if I'm dealing with owner trainers who, owners who have had the dog for a while. I mean, an 8-week-old puppy is going to be a little different from a 9 or 10-month-old puppy that they've had since he was 8 weeks old. But no, I think that's a perfect answer.
Yeah.
Here's a good one. Aunt Jeanette has a litter of Goldens on the ground. She's at the point to test her pups, and she's been observing them since birth. What would be your best advice to a breeder to temperament test? Now, before you answer that, I have to step aside for a little bit, so I'm going to put you on full screen, and I will be right back.
Okay. So, as far as I'm concerned, I think the best thing the breeder can do if they have time and ability is to maybe look at just doing some object training. Again, we're really working on teaching puppies to have recovery. So that could be anything from different surfaces for the puppy to walk on. It could be just a little small, maybe 6x8 plastic tarp that's laid loosely on the ground. You'll leave it out for about 5-10 minutes, 20 minutes maybe. And then the breeder will want to pick it up and put it away for a few days. Bring it back out in a few days, put it down again for a small period of time. We don't want to overwhelm the puppies. We just want them to get acclimated to different surfaces and sounds and textures, and to be able to learn how to cope with that. So that could be something to be considered. If the puppies are already on the ground, maybe not necessarily doing early neurological stimulation for somebody who hasn't had experience doing that. But if she plans on having future litters, you might want to look up early neurological stimulation for puppies, it's actually formerly a government program in the 50s. The U.S. government, created what they call the Super Dog program. And that was a program they were using with military dogs to help create a hardier, healthier dog that could endure more stress. And I think certainly a reflection of people becoming more stressed, particularly in the United States. Having handle more stress is helpful as well. I think in terms of just general getting people in there to spend time sitting on the floor with puppies, being quiet, playing gently, touching nicely. These are good things that can be done with a puppy of virtually any age, but particularly for younger puppies. Also, if you can expose them to kids, quiet kids, well-behaved kids, these are good exposures. You can do sounds from a distance, sounds when they're eating. So perhaps when they're eating their food, maybe there's a noise in the background that could be typical for your area, like if you're near boat docks or trains or that kind of thing, you can go ahead and play those sounds very lightly in the background. And as the puppies become more acclimated and less sensitive to that, you can turn the volume up a little bit. So maybe a little bit of sound sensitivity could be something else you could work on. I think that answers. Let me know if that's not
perfect.
enough.
No, and then getting someone else in there to do the temperament testing.
Oh,
like
yeah.
you could fly her over. Uh,
I'll pass my fly.
in there. You don't want it to be somebody who, who's been around the puppies.
No, and there are some good sources that you can find for temperament testing. So you might want to look on any of the professional websites for professional trainers. Would be a good option. And there are a couple of other organizations that specifically do puppy training programs. So those may be an option too, like Avidog and.
Yeah, Avidog and Puppy Culture are the two big ones that I know of, and I believe Avidog has, people on their site, and probably Puppy Culture does too. I haven't looked into it all that much. I'm just like, which one do we want to go with?
Yeah.
And which one's going to make the most sense to me just starting out? Because I'm not a litter. Here's a good one. Melissa says, her puppy tested fantastic, but unfortunately has had 2 very bad experiences. A puppy, it is now at 6 months old, going through a fear period that definitely has me concerned.
Yeah, is this a service dog puppy?
I think it is.
Okay.
But I don't know. Melissa, you still on? We'll see. There's a little bit of a delay from what we say to when they hear
it. So, puppies are going to have experiences. Not everything is going to be roses and rainbows. I had my dog in Costco. He's been there lots of times, but he had a giant freak out right before I went to the conference, IACP conference. We were walking, and all of a sudden, the meat counter just apparently had ghosts. And so we've had to go back, and we've had to work through that a little bit. But
Melissa, so she's still on. Hold on, Trace. Your dog's a service dog, right? What is that? The breed? Is that the chocolate lab in the in your picture there in your profile pic? Okay, go ahead. So you had a freak out in the meat counter because it was ghosty.
Yeah, go figure. But you still go and you still work through it. It's tough when they have issues with other dogs because it's best if you can set that up and do some retraining with other dogs who are not problematic. Yeah. But you might find that you need a professional trainer to help if that's the issue.
Yeah, he is a service dog, and that is the dog in there. So I know a couple of labs who say there's nothing wrong with chocolate. Stop telling people that they're crazy dogs, but they're crazy.
No. Wait a minute. I have some really famous clients that everybody would know, and they have chocolate labs. So
they have a lot of energy. So no. Some people love that energy, and they want a dog who is going to like keep up with them on runs, and then want to play ball, and then want to go to the beach for 4 hours. Most of my service dog people don't want that. They want mellow. They want gypsy, right? A dog who's going to she's sleeping at my feet right now. And she wasn't even the one at Universal for the day. It was Candy. So, I want a dog with a good off switch. And like I said, I know there are some breeders who put out fantastic. If I was going to go with a chocolate lab, I would contact one of them.
Yeah.
But what I tell people too is by and large, look at what the programs are using.
Yes.
Programs use mostly yellow labs and goldens and crosses of yellow labs and goldens.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. That's the highest statistical rate of success. Yeah. And you mentioned Southeastern guide dogs. I mean, that's their go-to. It's what most of the guide dog schools use as go-to are the labs, goldens, yellow labs, goldens, or crosses.
Yeah, and if you want a badass looking dog, get a black lab, but don't crop his ears, even though you might be tempted to, because then he's looking. Yeah. You know what? So we did Candy today, and then I met up with a trainer friend from Savannah. So she's down, and she had her year-old sable German Shepherd. People actually came up and asked if it was a Malinois.
Oh.
No, she's like, no, she's a German Shepherd. She's small. Yeah, she's a mini German Shepherd. Really? No. But with her and Candy has the up ears. People leave me alone more with her than with my golden. Go figure.
Yeah. I don't know what to tell you. I mean, my very first real, living on my own adulthood dog was a Rottweiler. And my husband had a golden retriever, and people would say, "Oh, golden," and run up to pet her, and I would think, the Rottweiler is the safe one in this scene. So looks can be deceiving.
Oh yeah. Okay, so she also says he's a unicorn of a chocolate lab. He's got a fantastic off switch. He's had 2 horrible experiences with people in the last month that compounded the fear period. So
Yes.
for Django, so Django's 7 months old, like yesterday, and they do go through stupid head times where they're just stupid heads. So you've got to do 2 things. You've got to help them through it without putting too much pressure on it and expose them to good things instead of just the bad things. So there's a reason Django didn't go to Universal today is I don't want to do anything bad like that could really compound until he gets past the stupid head phase. We can have fun here. Like I take him up to Brownwood. We go to Walt. Like we do outings here that are short, that are quick, that are to the point, but I don't want to bring him to Universal right yet. And when Gypsy was of this age, she had a bunch of hot spots that summer, so she missed, she did a little bit, and then she was out of commission with that. So they do need some off time. So as much as I preach, we start training at 8 weeks old for the service dogs, it's smart and it's not overwhelming to them.
Right.
If you're having fear, you got to help them through it nicely.
Yeah, I agree. I couldn't agree more, actually. With the guide dogs and some of the organizations that are out there, they want that dog with you 24/7, and they want it working from the time it's 8 weeks old. And I don't have conflict with that, but I would like to suggest that there are other options. Harvey,
to that 50% burnout rate or washout rate.
Absolutely. I think, look, we're asking them to do things that are hard that a normal dog cannot do.
Yeah.
We're asking them to do it with us, who may or may not be professional trainers. And, we've got to depend on these dogs as a medical device. I mean, it's not a small task we're asking. That said, dogs are dogs, and they do struggle sometimes. And part of what the gift that we've been given as their owners is to help them work past it. Because service dog or not, they don't deserve to just be put aside and say, okay, well, I can't get you past that, and I'm not willing to try. You got to give it some effort. And unfortunately, sometimes that may cost money because you might need to get some help from a professional. But if you can find a good professional, it may not take as long as you think.
What is it? Good, fast, and cheap. Pick 2.
Yeah, right. I mean, right. And Melissa, I think I remember reading about what happened there. So I know that was not a little thing, and I know that you are working to fix it.
Yeah.
And I'd like to encourage you to keep up with it because maybe there are some things you can do to make it not so bad, and maybe your puppy can stay as a service dog prospect.
I mean, 6 months old, you still have so much shaping, so much wiggle room, so much molding you can do with him. This is one of my pet peeves too, is people who, both ends of the spectrum. My dog's attacking every man, woman, child, orphan, and nun that he sees, and he's going to be my service dog because I said so. And the people who are like, oh my gosh, a dog looked at my dog funny, and my dog stopped while we were walking. He is getting washed out. I need another. There's no perfect dog, and this is something that took me a while to fully understand because I was like, my dog's perfect. I don't know about you guys, but every dog has something. So the goal of breeding is to breed like that perfect dog, but that perfect dog never exists, and that's why breeders are upset sometimes. But truly, right? You need to breed like the best and understand they're still dogs. I make mistakes. I'm a human. I have a human brain. I think I haven't checked it lately, but you have that. So we're asking so much of these dogs, and they're still dogs. As much as they're service dogs, they're still dogs. That's still part of that.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. And as great of a job as a breeder can do, I'd like to say as a professional trainer, I myself have trained one of the worst cases of food aggression you've ever seen.
I feel like it's a really funny, good story there.
Because I'm in my head, I know it all.
Yeah.
It took me a year to fix a problem I made.
Right? Well, and that's with me. I don't understand how owner trainers do it all on their own because personally, when we get a puppy in that's my personal puppy, Like, this is my puppy. It's not your puppy. You're coming to me for help. Like, this is my puppy. I'm going to make sure I do things right. I'm going to make sure it works because I talk about my dogs all the time. And I say to Rich, I'm like, oh my God, I don't know what to do. Like, he pulled on a leash. What do I do? And Rich is like, Vicky, if this was a client, what would you do? It's not a client. It's me. It's different. But you have to remember that and face that and say, like, how many puppies just this year? Like, this is what we're going to try and see how it goes and take it from there. But it's very like, but oh my God. And you get that choked upness.
Yeah, I think that's one nice thing about the forum that you have. It really is an opportunity for us to all be equals. And yes, I mean, I really have been training a long time. But that doesn't mean I can't learn something from someone else. And it doesn't mean I know it all. And it doesn't mean I'm not going to make mistakes with my own dogs. God love them. I mean, it's almost harder because, I should know, but they're my, forgive me, they're my babies.
Yeah, you're fur baby.
I can't see the forest through the trees. I'm like, you should be able to do this. Why can't you do this? Oh, because I didn't teach you.
Right? No, it's because it's yours. And so there's a famous saying, I guess, for professionals, and it's, the cobbler's children have no shoes. As in, like, my dogs suck because I don't have time to train them because I don't want to train them because that's what I spend all day doing. And it's why, if I was a dominatrix, all my clients would be successful rich businessmen because, like, they tell everyone what to do all the time and they don't want to do that afterwards, right? But I'm like, still, you got 5 minutes. Like, they don't have to be, like, that's one of the reasons I don't do the competitive stuff either, is I have 5 dogs. 2 of them are the border collies. Zoe is like 14 and like retired in full. Rue herds the cows for us and the goats. So, like, we're happy. He has all the training to be a service dog. He does not want to do it. Gypsy, you guys know. Candy, you guys know. Django, you guys know. Like, I've got 3 dogs that are service dogs in training. And, like, that's where my empty time goes, is to them. All the empty time that I have.
Yeah.
But, like, you've got at least 5 minutes a day to work them. And then they have the fun stuff of just being part of the family. That's part of it with Candy that we're doing, is integrating her into the pack, because I don't want her to be a boot camp dog forever. So, like, she got to go with us today. I think we got to the park around 9 and we didn't leave until about 3. So we got like 6 hours at the park with her today at Universal, and she was freaking amazing. But still, I'm like, I know I have to work on so much of this. Like, she needs a better down, she needs a better tuck, But, like, she was just chill with all the stuff going on, and I was like, that's my girl.
Yeah. Yeah, I think, I think especially for being an owner handler, or an owner trainer, go slow, enjoy your dog, love your dog, find the happy place. If your dog's happy and you're happy, that's a lot to be able to start from. When you have a relationship, you can get your dog to do a lot, and you'll do a lot for your dog.
Yeah. Oh, true, definitely. And that's, you need that. What I tell people is we start them at 8 weeks old. At 6 months old, potty training should be pretty decent.
Yeah.
Not saying perfect, but it should be pretty decent depending on the dog that you got. Everything you do before that 6 months old is like icing on the cake, right? Like, it's really good. Like, if you put thick icing on it, like I like thick icing on a cake. But it's socialization, it's habituation, it's potty training. Everything else is just gravy. Right. At 6 months on up, that's whenever we start to get serious about it. So if your dog knows, look at you, touch, their name, find it, leave it, walk on a leash, sit down, good around distract, like, bonus, we could move a little forward. But if your dog has a stupid head moment, like, there's not a problem. Like, then we do more play, we do more fun, because I want it to be fun.
Right. Yeah.
I've had people who are like, I'm taking my dog with me all day, every day, and I don't care. And I'm like, the dog is dragging, the dog is grouchy, the dog is bitey. And I'm like, the dog needs a break.
Yes, it does. Rest. Enough cannot be said for rest.
Right? It is.
Well, and the other part too might be, if we look at organizations that produce working dogs, and that's all they do is produce working dogs, we also have to look at what their timeline is for training. So generally, and this is a generalization, but generally, for guide dog schools, the dogs that are being raised by people to be entered into the program, most of the German Shepherds go back at about 12 to 14 months. That's because they mentally mature really quickly. Labradors, you're looking at 14 to 16 months before they begin their training process.
Yeah.
And golden retrievers, you're looking at least 16 months, 18 months before they begin their training program. They're just mature. So, I mean, here we are having these, 8-month-old dogs, and we're like, well, why can't they do anything? Well, they're 8 months old.
Yeah.
So we need to cut ourselves some slack too and say, yes, we have a timeline, and yes, if they are getting that privatized education, maybe they can move forward a little bit faster. But we also need to respect that they go at their own emotional and developmental rate. And look, if we're going to have a dog that's going to work for 8 or 10 years, we don't have to rush.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, totally. And that's it. You've got to go by their timeline, not yours. But what I don't want to have happen too, and so I do have to say it, just, I don't want to be like, oh, Vicky's not to do any training until they're 6 months old. So like he's gonna peel over the house and like bark at me and like bite me. And, like, she said like not to do anything until then. No, like I want to start from the get-go. This is your life.
Right.
Wait, but I also don't want it to be like you're with me 24/7 and now you're biting me up the wazoo because you're so tired and cranky and you don't know what to do with yourself.
Yeah. And right, if you're in a growth pattern, you're more tired. And so when your puppy is in a growth pattern, maybe dialing it back just a little bit, not stopping, just dialing it back to an appropriate, non-reactive response.
Yeah.
Those growth patterns, they happen pretty quick. A couple of weeks, you're past it and on to the next thing. Yeah.
Here, we got a good question from Claire. How do you know a good puppy for a future diabetic alert dog? So for that, you want the dog who's a little more active. You want more of a self-starter than for some other service dogs. It depends on what it is. And that's where, too, saying, like, service dogs, we want 3 and 4s. I think 4's the calmer and 3's the good for second time. So you're going to want more of a 3 for diabetic alert dogs. One thing Barbara said about at conference, whenever she talked about tracking, and I loved it, is take a smear of peanut butter and see how well the dog follows that smear of peanut butter.
I love that too.
How does the puppy use his nose? If you take a treat and you put a colander over it, a stinky treat, not like a piece of bread, like he's not a duck, he's a dog. With a colander over it, like does the dog sniff at it and try to get to it? Does the dog try to get to it? Does the dog sniff it? Like, is he like, but there's something in here? Is he just like, there's something in here, I'm going to lie down? Both of them might be okay.
Right.
Part of it's going to be how you raise and mold and shape that. There are, maybe, do you work with anyone who does the imprinting for the diabetic alert or for sense where like when the mama's feeding them, they'll put, the diabetic lows on the mama, on the food bowls and all of that stuff?
We don't have enough doing that particular task. Yeah,
because I've heard that it's great, and I've heard it does absolutely no good.
Yeah.
So I'm like, if I was diabetic, I would do it, but I'm not.
I think the other part to consider too, just as it relates to the temperament test itself, is, I'd want a puppy that on that umbrella test, they've got good recovery. Any kind of a dog that you want for alert purposes has to be able to do something called intelligent disobedience. Look, I'm going to use my guide dog stuff now. So guide dogs have to do something called, and lots of service dogs do, called intelligent disobedience. This is where the dog is given a command, cross the street. The dog's job is to look. If the dog sees no oncoming traffic, the dog takes the person across the street and all is well. But intelligent disobedience says the dog is commanded forward, go across the street. The dog looks, says, there's a car coming, and the dog disobeys the command. Intelligent disobedience. It has to be able to do that. So when you have alert, like let's say you've got your dog on a tuck under the table, and all of a sudden the dog goes, ooh, there's a problem. I need that dog to get up and alert. You don't have to stay in that tuck under the table. I need you to get up and do your job, and I need you to have enough self-confidence that you can do that even if you get a little bit of reprimand. I need you to have a little bit of recovery, because what's the first thing we do? We go, oh, what are you doing? Lay down.
Oh, exactly. Leave me alone. Don't paw at me. Don't bother me. I'm doing something. I'm doing my work. Leave me alone.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
No, I think that's perfect. Yeah, most definitely. And you want more active than less. So like PTSD dogs, anxiety alert dogs, some medical alert dogs can be a little lazier. Diabetic, I do want them. And then some people also for diabetic will have two. They'll have a daytime dog and a nighttime dog because it's like 3 o'clock in the morning where it's like, ruh-roh. Yeah, just drop. And if you've exhausted your dog through the day, he's going to be sleeping just as sound as you are.
Right. Yeah.
So that's something. Another gypsy question, are you going to have someone judge her structure prior to breeding? Actually, I'm going to Marina Azuna's movement markers workshop in like a week and a half. So I plan on taking Gypsy unless Candy does freaking amazing and Gypsy comes into heat immediately. So I'll hear from her. Confirmation judge wise, no. I had my friend look at her and then Tawny looked at her last year and everyone's like,
yeah,
cool. So I'm good. And she seems perfect. She is.
She is. Yeah.
Yeah. Betty says, my dog did so good when someone popped a balloon close to her. She jumped and looked and then went right back to walking with me. Good. Yeah. Antoinette says, we started puppy petting at 3 weeks and give guidance on touch and smell. We run the vacuum, etc. Yeah, we've had all ages and thank you for the info. And to that, you can look up puppy socialization sounds on YouTube. And then do you ever encounter kennel blindness? Now, kennel blindness is not a kennel that's blind. It's about a breeder who thinks their dogs are the absolute bomb, period, end of story, even if they're not. No, your breeders are all awesome.
Well, here's the thing. Look, this is my thing. I work very closely with the breeders that I work with, and I have the luxury of being able to choose who I work with. And I choose the breeders because these people are my friends and they have character. And if they start thinking one thing and I think something different, I'm your buddy. I'm going to tell you. You don't have to take my opinion, but I am going to correct you if you say all your dogs are always threes.
Right.
Except I have one breeder that kind of produces dogs that are actually mostly threes. But that's unusual. But it does sometimes happen. But yeah, look, your stuff is going to happen. You're breeding. It's genetics, and we're only on the beginning of the cutting edge of, how and why genetics really, really work. And more will be discovered. It may be easier to have kennel blindness in the future because you may actually be producing something that is genetically exactly what you think it is. But we're not there yet.
And if you have any questions on genetics, read the book on the silver fox experiment, how to tame a wolf and build a dog.
Yeah.
That is fantastic. And it's funny because I see we breed goats and cows so far. We haven't got to dogs yet because I'm waiting for gypsies of age now. I'm waiting for heat and see when it is. But, it's the same mom and the same dad can have 3 total different looking babies. And if, you have babies, check out my YouTube or my Facebook because you'll see them. They look totally different. Right. And so, temperament, hopefully they'll all be good. Mine are pretty good. I only have one that's kind of bitchy. She's very head buddy. But yeah, that's where, like I said, with the AKC club I was involved with in Gainesville, it was very much like there's no dog who's ever perfect and you're always breeding towards that. And I'm like, well, that's kind of a sucky attitude to take. Yeah. And I'm like, oh, I kind of get it now. It just takes time to sink in. That what weighs a feather a pound of bricks? It took me about 10 years to figure that one out because I'm very much a visual learner. If someone would show me a picture and said, here's a pound of bricks, right? Like one brick, here's a pound of feathers, like a giant, they weigh the same. They would have clicked off. You use both Avidog and puppy culture. Yeah, you're going to make up your own too. Would you sell gypsy puppies on a show contract? No. I mean, if someone wants to join, she's from very good show lines. Aiden's from very good show lines. Like, we'll have show prospect puppies in the litter. I'm just not showing her. So no, they won't be on a show contract. Nicola says hopefully Rio will be done soon with his late stupid head phase. Yeah, and Doc's stepping up good. And then Melissa with the lab says she's training, she's just switching gears, and she's seeing a trainer tomorrow to make sure we're on the right page. Good. Good. So Candy, Here, so Blake was the one I was with today with the miniature Malinois, and she said Candy did amazing today. She did, and so got a pull strap for her boldly designed vest harness. So I was working on pull a little bit with her.
Yeah.
And of course I forgot my clicker, so I'm using brake, and she's just like, "You're talking to them, and I'm pulling away here." So I'm like, "Son of a gun, I need to throw an extra clicker in my bag." Okay. The book is called, it's the Silver Fox Experiment book. I believe it's called How to Tame a Fox and Build a Dog.
Yeah.
So it's really awful because I don't read books anymore. Wait, and there's another good one, The Monks of New Ski, The Art of Raising a Puppy. So
in the back. Somewhere in the back. Gosh, I had the page open. Well, anyway. There we go. Every library will have this book.
Nice. You guys see that? You can go, you can borrow it from the library, you could write it down or make copies, you can buy it.
And then, the other one, if you're not very familiar with breeds and you just want to learn more, this is a great little book.
Your Purebred Puppy, a Buyer's Guide. That's cute.
Just in terms of just general temperament stuff. So if you were looking at a service dog prospect and maybe not a traditional breed like a Lab or a Golden, looking at some impartial information can be helpful.
Right? Yeah. Like my Anatolian that I'm going to do for psych work, like that's not going to happen, people.
Yeah, no. But I love Anatolian Shepherd. They're terrific.
Oh, if I would have said I want to give it to you for your guts, I'd be like, dude, but I still don't want the dog on the property that I have to be like, don't let your dog go over there. Don't let your kid go over there. So that's what my border collies are for.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So I'm looking, you had set me up a sheet over before. I think we covered, I'm looking at it real quick. We talked about a lot of stuff.
You know what? Do you have a minute? I'm going to show you my little kit.
Yes, please. I've got as much time as you want to give me. I just want to make sure you that. Oh, I like that you have it in a shoebox.
Yeah. Okay. Because I do this a lot.
Okay. So I'm going to write it down too. So what do we have in our...
So I have my pre-done forms, which you can print from online. There's lots. Like I said, on these, I've altered them. So on my forms, when I temperament test for breeders, my forms, actually, my forms, this way, have an indicator.
Oh, I love that.
And then on the bottom, it has an indicator for, back it up. So right down here, the puppy is more bold, more shy, right in the middle. I think that's helpful for people, right? Because, this is not something that maybe everybody does. So, okay, in my little kiddo things. Gosh, I hope it looks clean back there.
It works. Okay. My bookcases. My bookcases are not clean. It works.
So I always have, for the tennis ball test, I always have this is like just a regular tennis ball size, and I have a mini, and then somewhere I have a tiny, because I do have some tiny, like, mini poodle breeds.
Okay.
Because if you put this, the mini poodle breed is never going to retrieve it.
They're like, it's an avalanche, it's going to kill me, I'm running away.
So that's not going to happen. For noise, I just have a simple lid. It could be a lid to a pot lid.
That looks like one of those, like a popcorn lid from the Boy Scouts would sell.
That's exactly what it is. I'm a former Boy Scout. But I do want to demonstrate how to do this because I don't know how to say this, but people do it wrong. So, so I've got the lid. I am going to hold it between my thumb. Let me see if I can get it there. My thumb and finger. It's a snug hold, but it should have a little bit of movement, right? Because I need it to resonate. So again, I need to be 6 feet from the puppy. You don't want to be on the puppy. This puppy is learning.
So you don't want to chase after him and bang it and yell at him?
Right? No. So it's and you wait and you stay still. And the puppy will respond by either staying still and looking or walking away, but that's it. And it's one and
Responding and
done.
feeding.
Now, the one exception to that is if you have a puppy that does not respond at all to sound. If they do not respond at all to sound, you may repeat this test because this is a precursor for a hearing loss issue. And so if you repeat the test and you still have no response at all, you need to note that and you need to talk to the breeder and say, hey, you might need to get that puppy checked for hearing loss. So definitely do that. And I say that because within the last year, I actually had to repeat the test. And the puppy the first time didn't respond, the second time did respond. And then later it was discovered that it had some bilateral hearing loss.
Okay.
So it stuff happens. And that had never happened for the breeder ever. So weird. Okay, I have a hand towel. And the hand towel has just tied a knot on it. And let me move this over here for a second. I'm going to use the chair here as a demonstration purpose.
Okay.
And you basically want to drop it and then wiggle it. You want the puppy to you want that prey drive to come out. So I don't want to startle the puppy, but you got to make enough noise so that they can hear it, and then some motion so that they have interest. So when you are doing the test, you do want to do a little bit of a wiggle with that item. The other thing that's needed, I like to use a nice soft blanket. This is a big blanket. And when we do the rolling over onto the back test, I like for the puppy to feel some sense of security. Some puppies will not mind if you just put them flat on a floor, and I totally get that, and it's okay. But again, I'm thinking, look, this puppy is learning from this experience, and I definitely don't want to do anything that might be considered cheating or altering the test. But look, I don't want them to freak out. I don't want them to be held by somebody they don't know and have a poor experience. Yeah. So I am going to do that in a guided, gentle way. And then the umbrella that you'll use, I like, there goes the spoon. And an umbrella, you need an automatic release button so that when you push it, it just pops itself open. This works much better. And again, anytime you're doing any kind of startle or sound, you need to be at that 6 to 8 foot mark. You don't want to do it on top of the puppy. It's learning. We don't want to imprint fear. Yeah. So that's my little quick.
So when you do the umbrella, do you do it right at them, like, bah! Or do you do it away from them, or do you do it like halfway?
Good question. My preference is that they're at least making some visual, either direct eye contact or peripheral eye contact. And I do pop it in front of me. So me, umbrella, puppy, 6 to 8 feet away.
Okay.
It's a pop and I drop it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
And, remembering that you want to stay quiet and neutral, because this is not about, will the puppy do it for you? This is about the puppy's.
Which puppy loves you best?
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? No, I get it. I love it.
So
and I think those are one for you.
Yeah, those are probably the big ones. And there's lots of tests that I've, looked up over the years and how people do their temperament tests and all that kind of stuff. And, I don't know. I think sometimes people get it right and sometimes they don't. Sometimes they may perform the test right, but not log it correctly. Yeah. So, Victoria, when the puppies come, I'm coming out. I'm going to videotape temperament testing the puppies and show people how to do it right.
Totally, yes. And we'll add that to the online course.
Yeah, absolutely.
When you do it, do you usually videotape it or no?
I don't usually because I don't. Because usually when I do it, I take a volunteer with me because who doesn't love to play with a puppy? And I'm teaching them how to do the test. And so I don't.
No. I like service dog for the public access test to videotape it. But when we go to do it, like I'm the secondary person. I usually make Rich do it because I don't like giving tests. And then so I tell them like bring a friend to record the test.
Yeah.
Like it'd just be easier for you to have somebody to deal with that, so I don't have to, and you don't have to because we're all busy doing stuff.
Absolutely, and the perspective is really cool too, especially if it's your own puppy that you're testing or a puppy that you're considering. It's good to go home and think about it and say, okay, wait, is that really what I thought it was? Do I really like that? Can I live with that?
Yeah. Well, when we went up to get Gypsy, we wanted a girl. There were only 4 girls out of 2 litters. Only 4 girls.
Oh.
12 to 14 puppies per litter, but so, like only 2 girls, the rest more boys in each litter. And I had forgot the temperament test. I had forgot to bring everything. So I'm just like, okay, what are some of them? And like, I didn't have a ball or whatever. I had a leaf. It was fall. It was in Atlanta. So I'm like, here's a leaf. Like, and grabbing a leaf and bringing it to play. So I'm like, okay, that's pretty. And I remember like, okay, flip her upside down and see how she does. Okay, walk. So I'm trying to remember is to do. But it's nice, like I said, to have it because it's something. Because all the puppies look the same. Yeah. It's not like even they have spots that can be a little different. They're all golden retrievers. Right. And she was the most beautiful and gorgeous. It just happened to be that way.
Although nail polish is good for the golden retrievers because then when you pick the one you want, you go, I want that one nail polish. Purple's mine. Right. The breeder I got my golden retriever, she shaved part of the hair on their backs.
One of the goats was just born with a moon spot, and a moon spot is a spot of different colors. It's not a white spot on black. I think it's a different color on a colored spot, and he has it right on his hip like a My Little Pony. They call him Cutie. Like Dad would be really neat to like draw something. So like we could do a little stencil and we could do that for all the dogs. Is just give them all cutie marks and they can run around and it'd be like My Little Pony dogs.
I love that. I'm all about that.
Right? Monica was saying about how to color up your dog with a little stencil. And I'm like, I do have a golden who's beautiful. Right.
Yeah.
Perfect.
So after seeing Monica's dog, now I want to like do a little pink purple thing on my dog.
Right? Well, that's with the border collies being white and black, because I've got the normal ones. I don't have like the funky color ones. I'm kind of like, well, we do have white. We could dye colors.
Yeah. Well, Harvey's get up is orange and gray. That's his service stuff.
Right.
Yield, I gotta stop thinking that, but I do kind of think, well, he'd look cute with orange. Well, the orange mohawk or something.
He would look awesome with the mohawk.
The orange ears.
I like that.
I don't know where they are. The door's closed. Let me get Mabel, and you can see Mabel.
Okay.
And Harvey, if I can find him.
Okay. So if I get a puppy from Gypsy, would I be able to wait 2 years to get him fixed so that growth plates close first? Yes, that actually will be in our contract. When we do Gypsy and Candy and Roma, the poodle is, wait until 2 years to close growth plates. They all will also be on limited registration. Hi, sweethearts. You want to come visit Gypsy and play?
He's like, I could be a boyfriend.
Right? Would you like that? Would you like that?
He's looking right at you. You have good taste, huh, buddy? Yeah. Good boy. Okay. Misjudged that off there.
How old is he now?
He's almost 8 months. And
nice.
Yeah, this week he's learning how
He's my alert dog. Stop it.
Mabel, come here. Come here, Mabel. So Harvey is going to do service work, and then Mabel, come here, Mabel. Come on, Mabel. Up. Not you, are. Come on, Mabel. Oh. This is Mabel. She is a working therapy dog.
Okay.
So she's my other little baby, and then somewhere, Will. No, can't. Whoops. Here, Will. Willie, come here. Okay, he's gone. Anyway, he's my little, I got him at 5-week-old baby. So he's like He's like
Very
literally
cute.
my baby. Like he doesn't know he's not.
Right. So,
He's
Tracy, how can people get
brilliant.
in touch with you?
What?
How can people get in touch with you?
You can go to yespup.com
Yes,
or you
YESPUP.com.
YESPUP.com, or you can email me directly, Tracy, TRACY @YesPup. Don't worry about the spelling. You could also do trainers at YesPup. Pretty much YesPup at YesPup. It all comes to me.
Hey, you at YesPup.com. The best.
Yep.
Gotta.
Yep. You can also check out our Facebook page. So that's under Complete Canine Training LLC.
Okay.
That's another way to
Complete Perfect. Thank you so much for joining. And I love that you shared the company test info and all of that with us. You are awesome. And we want to have you back because this was fun.
Oh, I'm honored. You're delightful, as always.
All
right. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks.